So I found this thing. I've refound it. I didn't find it originally, the original on Facebook, but I found this one. Quote, "It was the result of having multiple pastors tell me essentially the same story about quoting the Sermon on the Mount, parenthetically in their preaching. Quote, turn the other cheek, end quote. And to have someone come up after saying, where did you get those liberal talking points, end quote. And what was alarming to him, is that in most of these scenarios, when the pastor would say, I'm literally quoting Jesus Christ, the response would not be, I apologize. The response would be, yes, but that doesn't work anymore. That's weak. End quote. And when we get to the point where the teachings of Jesus himself are seen as subversive to us, then we were in crisis. So in other words, whatever mythology one hears about Christianity, one is led to believe, especially since they translated the Bible into the lay languages, that it's being read by Christians. This is evidence that it's not being read by Christians. It's being quoted by pastors to Christians, or to people who call themselves Christians. In other words, they don't read the Sermon on the Mount themselves and then come into the church and say, hey, what's this? They don't examine it at all. They just take in what the pastor gives them, and the pastor, presumably to keep his gig going, will adapt what he says to them accordingly. And that's a revelation, as they say. That is a revelation, and it means that the cult that is the evangelist, or whatever they call themselves, the right-wing Christian, the Christian that loves the Donald Trump thing, the angry, vengeful, keeping out the foreigners Christian, is not actually reading the Bible. They are susceptible to a pastor who will be selective about what he tells them. So I would think it'd be extremely healthy if you all would have the argument amongst yourselves and leave us out of it for the time being, us non-believers in one God who says lots of very contradictory things. Please do. This is the screwy bit, the obvious one, the weakness of my side. The rage on their side, its narrow mind. It is understood. It works that way. Just listening. What do you hear? How is the language of the left to you? I know some poets. I have found lightning there where it was murky otherwise. And I wonder this, the language that I use and that they use expresses something found or something used. I talk to myself. I have examples of profundity littered throughout my history. How do I measure up to that? Not in loftiness or in imitation. I'm not a Shakespeare scholar, but in sense. Did I speak my mind clearly? And trust me, most of the time we don't. We have not the practice or the habit. Hamlet did, and he did. We don't hold back because we are hiding or politic. In my experience, is simply that we haven't sought ourselves. We haven't practiced. We haven't looked in. We haven't thought, how can I express what actually I am feeling, rather than quoting what somebody else has said that vaguely approximates to what I'm feeling. And I've been in conversations with these people, and it's shocking how they always say, God, I never thought about that. Why not? It's your job. We say what we think will impress, perhaps, what will seduce or win or crush, not what flies from me to you. And so each is hushed a moment. You know that thing when you're in a conversation with somebody and they say something to you and you go, wow, it's fantastic. It is a wonderful thing. And it is not impressive, this utterance. It might seduce or it might dominate, but that'll just be collateral, be unintentional. If I listen to a presentation littered with cliche, I'm sure the mind that presents it is a cliche. I know that. If I listen to Kamala Harris, I know I'm listening to a cliche. There's not an original thought, and I do not trust those people. Thoughts not grasped and wrestled with. Perhaps the language the speaker thinks you want to hear. And then they come out and deal with the questions of my day, of our day, the Ukraines and Gazas, the shootings and inflation. And I have to assume that as they generalize their talk, they generalize us too. They haven't the self-respect to speak truly what they feel, so they have no respect for me or for my speech. And so it goes, apparently, many of us like it. We like the dull rage, the slogan, more than clarity. That's our deal. So yeah, as I wind my way through any number of missives on what so-and-so intended and what so-and-so said in Shakespeare or in Milton or what Martin Luther King meant, or what Noam Chomsky means, or what I mean, I find that I'm dealing with people who are only capable of grasping cliches or slogans, and it's quite. I find it quite terrifying, and I don't know who's going to start it. I saw a speech by Bernie Sanders about oligarchy and his thing on all of that, and I am a Bernie fan. I'm a Bernie fan because of not just how he speaks, but what he speaks, what he's actually talking about. That's my stuff. And I'm not proclaiming that he is a great orator. But as Shakespeare said, I use no art. Yeah, we're really keen on the art of speaking. I hear people talk. I heard some woman say one time, "Well, I just want to be sure that I'm working on my bespoke self." And I go, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" You know, the thing is that what is missing and what's hugely absent is persuasive conversation. And there's lots of people you can listen to, and you can realize that what they're saying is progressive or intelligent, or very, very few people do I listen to where I go, "Oh my, I really hadn't thought of that. I hadn't known that." You know, there's a continual driving relentlessly of the same old stuff. And the funny thing about Bernie is he's continuously driving the same old stuff, and he's not stopping and giggling and laughing a la. I mean, it really, I listen to the class of speaker from whatever field they're coming from. And I listen to their language and I go, "You're just gilding the lily. What you have to say is minimal." And that's okay. Have something minimal to say, like Bernie does. But don't dress it up, because what I do is I begin to think that you're actually being subjective. You're talking about yourself and you're not talking about the particular issue at hand. You know, it's like to get into the argument about say founding fathers, superheroes, Lincoln and Jefferson, for instance, and all of them really. As far as I'm concerned, the final founding father of of North America, but after south of Canada, is Martin Luther King. The chaps, and he had a lot of people around him saying quite marvelous things. But Lincoln and Jefferson, as a for instance, could just say, "Yes, we're racist." Not in so many words. They could have just said that. And they did sort of say it in so many words, but we've all shied away from this. No, they weren't. They were ever so nice. They weren't. They believed that the European had a right to the two continents of the Americas. And it was just a matter of funding the invasion. And the people who were there before could either become little Lincolns and Jeffersons, especially if he took a fancy to one of them, or they could just somehow disappear. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So stop quoting them. It's not, to say, well, abolition of slavery, whoop-de-doo, well done, finally. But you did it because you thought your God disapproved. You had moral qualms about it. You didn't do it because you thought, what the hell am I doing? Treating people who are equal to me in every respect so badly. I mean, they might not have your fruity education, but the evidence was clear to anybody, to certainly to Jefferson, if he's as intelligent as we imagine as we've been told he was. Clear evidence is clearly not there. Anyway.